Hello and welcome to Candid Conversations. All you have to do as our lucky audience is sit back and relax as we explore the human condition through a series of questions. I'm your host, Yasmeen, and today I'm joined by Erik Anderson. So, first of all, thank you for being here. I know it's been pretty cold and all I've been wanting to do is get into bed and go to sleep. So, thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long week, but I'm ready to, it's only Tuesday. Wow. I'm ready to get into these questions, yeah.
Okay. So today we'll be talking about love. So let's get started. So first off, I want to ask you, what is love? What does that mean to you?
I think love to me is kind of a heightened level of caring about somebody or something, to the point where it's not like quite like liking something. It's like liking something on like a whole nother level where you're willing to like do a ton of things for that thing or like for that person. So yeah.
Yeah. So do you think love is a social construct or is it like biological?
I think it's biological. I think the word love gets thrown a lot, around a lot in society, of course. But at the same time, I think that as humans, we all want to be loved and we all want to like give love. So, yeah, I think it's a biological thing that we all just have.
And naturally, from even young ages, it's something that we feel. So, when did you know what love was?
Probably, I don't know when the exact moment was, but it probably would have been very early, when my parents were like taking care of me as like a small child. Because falling down, for example, and like scraping your knee and like crying, and then like your mom or dad being there to be like, oh, it's fine, or like whatever, and basically like gives you on the forehead, put a Band-Aid on your knee and like make you feel better. So like I guess that would be like the first time.
Yeah, that's nice. When you hear the word love, what is the first thing you think about?
I definitely think of my parents first, just because they've been married for, I think, 22 years. So that's like, I guess, the paragon of love to me. It's like a very I see their relationship as like a very stable and loving relationship. So when I think of love, I think of my parents and how long they've been together and how they show love to each other. And yeah, and it makes me feel all warm inside. So yeah.
So how do you come to love someone platonically versus romantically? Because those are two different things.
I think platonically, I think it's low-key about, well, both of them are about understanding, I think. But I think that romantically, you need a deeper level of understanding, and then also just like the willingness to go above and beyond for that person has to be kind of higher romantically. But platonically, it's just kind of like you care deeply about that person.
Yeah.
You would be willing to do a lot for that person, but maybe not like anything. Versus like romantically, you might feel inclined to do almost anything for that person.
Yeah. And speaking of wanting to do almost anything for that person, it kind of puts you in a vulnerable state. Like love is something that is so vulnerable. So how do you feel, has there ever been a time when you've loved someone and cared about them, but you didn't receive that love back? You didn't receive it in return, whether it be like family or a friend?
Yeah, I think I've been in that situation before. It definitely hurts. It's like, because you're willing to give your all for that person, but that person isn't willing to do it for you. So like knowing that they're not willing to do that, really just kind of like gets in your head. And then also love is like a feeling that you can shake, I guess, very easily. So it's like a feeling that'll stick around for like a minute. So yeah, you're gonna end up feeling pretty bad for however long it takes you to like get over that and process the whole thing.
Yeah. And with love comes like expectations of people. Like we expect things naturally because we're human. So this is kind of a hard one, like unconditional love. How do you feel about unconditional love?
See, that's kind of like love at first sight for me. Like, I'm not a huge like love at first sight person either. Just because I feel like you have to get to know somebody in order to like love them. Like, love at first sight to me is
Yeah.
like eh. So unconditional love is kind of the same thing, where it's like loving somebody unconditionally is, I guess, possible, but the fact that we're human and we all make mistakes, it makes it very hard to love people
Yeah.
unconditionally. So I feel like ideally, yeah, that's what you would want from like two people, or like from like you caring deeply about something that you're passionate about. But it might not always work out like that just because of how the
Yeah.
world is. So yeah.
Yeah. So, what's something crazy that you've done for love? You have any like movie experiences?
I don't think I've done anything crazy up to this point. I guess because the need has never arisen. Like, I don't think I've ever been put in a position where I needed to do anything crazy or felt like I had to do anything crazy for anyone I loved. But I can see why. Like, if you got put in a position where you felt like you had to do something like wildly crazy to get this person's attention, or like to help this person out, then I feel like I can see why people would do it. But I just haven't been put in that position to date. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, that's interesting because you always see people doing crazy things for love, and then like you get put in these sticky situations and it's like tough. But has there ever been a time when love has got you out of a tough situation? Because usually you get into tough situations because of love.
I think usually when I think of love getting me out of tough situations, it would be kind of like the death of a relative. Like, it takes you to like a really dark place, but like being surrounded by like your friends and family and the love that they give you kind of like helps you get out of that dark place. So that's an example of like love taking you out of like a place where you would probably be for longer, if like no one was showing you love and no one was supporting you, but because people are showing you love and supporting you, you're able to like lift yourself out of that place and end up feeling at least like a little bit better about
Yeah.
how everything is.
Yeah. So what do you think about hate and love? Like, some people say there's a very thin line between both. Like, do you agree with that? Or?
I disagree with that statement. I do think there are two sides of the same coin, because like love is like liking something to an extreme, and then hate is disliking something to an extreme. So in that sense, they're related to each other, but the actual response that you get from either one of them is very different. Like, I can see how they make people's bodies react, like, and so like your heart rate will like speed up, like
Yeah.
if you love somebody, and at the same time if you like hate something, it might like make your blood pressure increase, make your heart rate go up. So like your biological response might be the same, but I think the actual like emotion of it are two completely different things.
Yeah. So in what situations do you think love can be like harmful, like just toxic and not good for you?
I think when people are too possessive, if that makes sense, because people can like we said earlier, people can do crazy stuff for love. So I feel like if somebody's like love is like a really possessive, kind of like obsessive kind of love, then they'll feel like they have to do crazy things all the time, and then that won't be good for the other person or whatever like that person is like showing love to. So yeah, I think that like in whatever scenario you're not willing to let your like significant other or like the thing you're loving be like free or like do its own thing, and you have to like keep it to yourself all the time, like, no, this is mine,
Yeah.
then I feel like that's toxic and that's kind of like harmful.
Yeah. And those kind of harmful things can lead us to kind of lose love for someone. And has there ever been a time when you lost love for something that you cared about, like not necessarily a person, but something that's a part of you?
Yeah, so at the end of high school, I swam. I swam like all throughout high school. By the end of high school, I wasn't really in love with swimming anymore, just because I was like leaving for college, school, like I had to study for the SAT. It was like everything at once, applying for colleges, and I was just like, I don't need this anymore. I don't like, it's just like a stressor. And like at that point, I was on a new team and I didn't feel like, I guess it was just a different environment, and I guess the love felt different. So I didn't necessarily love it anymore. I still liked it a lot, but it just didn't really feel like I had to stick around for the very end. But now I love it again, and I swim all the time. So it's like, you know,
And that kind of goes into our next question. Like, once you lose love for something, do you believe in reestablishing that connection again? Like once it's lost, do you believe it's possible?
I think it depends on the circumstances of why the love like fell apart. Like for example, if it was like something toxic like we talked about earlier, I don't think you should dig that up because it'll have the tendency to be the exact same unless that person has like done serious work on themselves. But there's other scenarios where it was just like a perfect storm of things that happened that made it fall apart.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't like the thing that you love's fault. And you can revisit that. You'll realize that, and then you'll probably come out of that stronger. So, yeah.
So, when does Erik Anderson feel most loved? When do you feel most loved?
When do I feel most loved? Probably when I'm with my friends or family. Just because they're people that I like to spend my time with. They're all funny. They're all great. I love all of them for different reasons, and I think that's my favorite thing about all of my like friends and family that I hang around with a lot. But yeah, just being with them and being in an environment with them, like almost no matter what, that's when I feel most loved.
Yeah. So, after sharing your vulnerabilities and like your views on love, what is your final word on what love is?
I think love is a whole bunch of things, I guess, after this conversation, depending on what you're showing love to, who you're showing love to. Kind of, I guess, as a definitive definition, I guess it would just be like, again, like a deep caring for something that doesn't necessarily have to be unconditional. It's just something that makes you feel good inside and like makes you want to be the best you can be and kind of like influences your actions also in a way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Erik. We appreciate it. So tune in for next week's episode when we will be conversing about loss. Erik will be providing some questions, and if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments or email candidconversations@umich.edu. That's been another Candid Conversation, and until the next convo.